I arrived at Nuuswak Station on the second Tuesday of October when the sun still pretended to set. The twin otter that brought me banked hard over the fjord, and I counted 11 buildings on the strip below. The pilot, a Dane named Eric, who'd flown me north from Kangerlussuaq, pointed at the second largest hangar. "That's your home. Fuel depot next door. Don't go in the small shed past the windsock unless it's Tuesday or Thursday before 10 in the morning." I wrote that down. He taxied to the apron, cut the engine, and handed me a laminated card while the propeller ticked to stillness. "Jens left this. He was here 4 years, good man, paid off his brother's medical debt and got out." The card had 9 lines typed in Norwegian and English. I read the English side. Eric pulled my 2 duffel bags from the cargo net and set them on the tarmac. The cold bit through my jacket immediately, not the deep cold yet, just the warning edge of it. "Fuel truck is full. Generator runs on a timer, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Satellite phone is in the operations office, but it only works when the dish isn't frozen. Check it twice daily." "Where's the dish?" "Roof of ops. You'll need the ladder from the hangar. Check the card for the rest." He climbed back in, and I stepped away from the wash as he spun up and took off southwest. I watched until the otter became a white dash against the gray sky, then picked up my bags and walked toward the hangar. The card had a magnetic strip. I swiped it at the personnel door and the lock clicked. Inside, 4 aircraft, 2 Cessna 185s on the left, a Beechcraft King Air in the center, and a DHC-2 Beaver on floats near the back with the floats on wheeled cradles. The floor was spotless. I could smell solvent and hydraulic fluid and cold metal. A gray metal desk sat in the corner under a caged lamp. On the desk, a logbook, a ring of 12 keys, a VHF handheld radio on a charger, and a 3-ring binder with station protocols printed on the spine. I set my bags down and opened the binder. The first page was a hand-drawn map. The 11 buildings, the runway oriented northwest-southeast, the fuel depot, the ops office, the windsock, the generator shed, and, labeled in red, "Do not enter, authorized only 2/3, 07/010, Salmozaro." The small shed Eric had mentioned. The second page was the rule list. Nuuswak Station Protocols, Evening Night Shift 1. Begin your cleaning walkthrough at exactly 7 p.m. Start with the Beaver, then the King Air, then the 2 Cessnas in the order they are parked. Do not skip this sequence. Do not begin early. 2. If you hear an engine start between 8 p.m. and 5 a.m., do not look toward the sound. Continue your work. Mark the time in the logbook under anomalies, but do not investigate. 3. The generator will shut off for 11 minutes starting at 2:43 a.m. This is normal. Sit at the desk with the handheld radio on channel 9 during this period. Do not leave the desk. Do not use a flashlight. 4. If someone knocks on the personnel door after 10 p.m., check the time. If it is between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m., respond, "Station is closed. Return at 7 a.m. If it is between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m., do not respond. Do not open the door. Do not look through the window. 5. The Beaver must have its cabin door closed and latched at all times when you are not actively cleaning it. If you find the door unlatched, close it immediately, then go to the desk and write the time in the logbook. Do not re-enter the Beaver that night. 6. At 3:15 a.m., walk to the ops office and verify the satellite dish is clear of frost. Use the ladder from the south wall of the hangar. If you see movement near the windsock while you are on the ladder, finish your task, descend at normal speed, and return to the hangar. Do not call out. Do not hurry. 7. Fuel deliveries arrive Tuesdays and Thursdays. The driver will knock twice, pause, then knock once. Confirm this pattern before opening the door. If the knock pattern is different, remain inside and radio the contact number posted above the desk. 8. You may hear your name called from outside the hangar. This will sound like someone you know. Do not answer. Do not go outside to investigate. If it persists, put on the noise-canceling headset stored in the desk's lower left drawer and continue working. 9. At 6 a.m., complete your final walkthrough. Verify all cabin doors are closed, all engine covers are secured, and all cleaning supplies are stored in the yellow cabinet. Write your initials and the date in the logbook under Shift Complete. The morning crew arrives at 6:30 a.m. Below the list in handwriting that matched the logbook entries, someone, Jens, I assumed, had written, "These rules kept me safe for 4 years. Follow them exactly. If you are unsure, choose compliance. The pay is for the precision, not the labor." I read the list 3 more times, then I checked my watch. 4:47 p.m. I had an hour and 13 minutes. I used the time to unpack. The operations office was a separate building 15 meters east of the hangar across packed gravel. Inside, a plywood desk, a swivel chair with duct tape on the seat, a 2-burner propane stove, a microwave that looked 30 years old, a narrow cot with wool blankets, and a metal shelf stacked with canned soup, instant coffee, and a box of pilot bread. The satellite phone was bolted to the desk. The contact list above it had 5 entries: Kangerlussuaq Operations, Nuke Emergency, Fuel Dispatch Site Manager, and a number labeled Jens if needed. The ladder Eric mentioned was leaning against the exterior south wall of the hangar. I climbed it and checked the dish. It was clear. The windsock hung limp. To the north, beyond the runway, the land sloped down toward the fjord. To the south, a gravel road trailed off toward nothing. I could see the restricted shed from here, windowless, painted red, about the size of a garden shed with a padlock and a faded sign I couldn't read at this distance. I climbed down, went back to the hangar, and made coffee on the propane stove in the ops office. I brought the mug to the hangar desk and read the logbook while I waited for 7 p.m. Jens's entries were terse and methodical. Oct 8:19 aurora start, walk through clean. 02:43 blackout normal. 03:15 dish clear. 06:00 complete. Initials JML. Oxy 9:19 aurora start, walk through clean. 02:43 blackout normal. Anomaly 23:17 engine sound from southeast, did not look. Logged. 03:15 dish clear. 06 complete. Initials JML. OCT 10:19 as our start, walk through clean. 02:43 blackout normal. 03:15 dish clear. Movement near windsock returned per protocol. 06 complete. Initials JML. Every entry was like this, months of them. No elaboration, no commentary. The last entry was 4 days ago. OCT 14:19 arts start, walk through clean. 02:43 blackout normal. 03:15 dish clears. 06:00 complete. Leaving at 06:30, next cleaner. Follow the list. Initials JML. I set my watch alarm for 6:58 p.m. At exactly 7 p.m. I walked to the Beaver. It sat at the back of the hangar on its wheeled cradles, floats 12 inches off the concrete. The cabin door was closed. I unlatched it, checked inside 6 passenger seats, cargo netting, a faint smell of oil and old canvas, then propped the door open with a rubber wedge from the cleaning cart. I wiped down the seats, vacuumed the floor mats, inspected the cargo tie-downs, and cleaned the windows with a microfiber cloth and spray bottle. 26 minutes. I removed the wedge, closed the door, and verified the latch was secure. Next, the King Air. It was larger, pressurized, parked in the center with its nose pointed toward the main hangar door. The air stair was down. I climbed in and worked through the cockpit first, then the cabin. 31 minutes. I wiped down the exterior handles, checked the engine covers, and moved to the Cessnas. They were identical, white fuselages, blue trim, 4 seats each. I cleaned the first in 19 minutes, the second in 21. By 8:34 p.m. I'd finished the sequence. I returned the cart to the yellow cabinet, checked the logbook to make sure I'd written nothing yet too early, and sat at the desk. The hangar was silent except for the hum of the fluorescent lights and the faint groan of wind outside. At 9:13 p.m. I heard the first engine start. It came from somewhere southeast of the hangar. Low, piston-driven, idling rough. I kept my eyes on the logbook and wrote, "Ot 18:19 start. Walk through clean. Anomaly 2113 engine sound from southeast did not look logged." The sound ran for 4 minutes, then stopped. I waited. Nothing else. At 10:07 p.m., someone knocked on the personnel door. 3 knocks, evenly spaced. I checked my watch. 10:07 p.m., between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. I walked to the door but did not open it. I said, "Station is closed, return at 7 a.m. Silence. Then footsteps on gravel, fading south. I returned to the desk and added the entry to the log. The generator cut out at exactly 2:43 a.m. The fluorescent lights died. The heater fan stopped. The only light came from the glow of my watch dial and the faint gray spill through the high windows near the hangar's roof. I sat at the desk, pulled the VHF handheld from its charger, and switched it to channel 9. Static, low and even. I set it on the desk in front of me and folded my hands. The cold started creeping in immediately. My breath began to fog. I counted seconds in my head to pass the time, watching the minute hand on my watch crawl. At 2:49 a.m., the static on the radio changed. It didn't stop. It shifted, became rhythmic, almost like breathing, but not quite. A pattern of hiss and silence, each cycle lasting 4 seconds. I kept my hands folded. I did not adjust the radio. I did not change the channel. At 2:51 a.m., the pattern stopped. The static returned to its original flatness. At 2:54 a.m., the generator came back on. The lights flickered, steadied. The heater fan resumed. I wrote in the logbook, 0243 blackout normal. I did not mention the static. At 3:15 a.m., I took the ladder from the south wall and carried it to the ops office. The air was brutally cold now. My breath hung in clouds. I leaned the ladder against the building, climbed to the roof, and checked the dish. A thin skin of frost had formed on the southern edge. I scraped it off with the plastic blade I'd found clipped to the ladder. Jens must have left it there, and checked the alignment. It looked fine. As I descended, I saw movement near the windsock, not the sock itself, beyond it. 40 meters north, maybe 50, near the edge of where the gravel turned to tundra. A shape, upright, human-sized. I finished my descent at normal speed, leaned the ladder back against the hangar's south wall, and walked into the hangar through the personnel door. I did not call out. I did not look back. I wrote in the log, 0315 dish clear, movement near windsock returned per protocol. The rest of the shift was quiet. At 6 a.m. I did my final walk-through. Beaver door closed and latched. King Air door closed, both Cessnas secure, engine covers tight, cleaning supplies in the yellow cabinet. I wrote in the log, so $600 complete, initials, MH. I made coffee, sat in the ops office, and waited. At 6:29 a.m. I heard a vehicle approach from the south. A white pickup with oversized tires parked near the hangar. 2 men got out, one older, gray beard, orange jacket, one younger, maybe mid-20s, green coveralls. The older man knocked on the ops office door. I opened it. "You're the new cleaner," he said. American accent, flat Midwestern vowels. "Yeah. Started last night. I'm Cole, morning crew chief. This is Ahmed. We handle the fueling and pre-flights." I shook their hands. "Everything goes smooth?" Cole asked. "Yeah. Followed the protocols." He nodded. "Good. Keep doing that. We'll see you tonight at the changeover." They walked toward the hangar. I watched them go, then went back inside, lay down on the cot, and slept until 2 p.m. The next 5 nights followed the same pattern. Start at 7 p.m. Walk through clean. Beaver, King Air, 2 Cessnas. Log the time. Anomalies varied. Sometimes the engine sound, sometimes knocking at the door. Twice I heard my name called from outside, once in my sister's voice, once in my father's, and both times I put on the noise-canceling headset and kept working. The 2:43 a.m. blackout happened every night. The static always did the same thing, shifted to a breathing pattern, then stopped. 11 minutes exactly. The 3:15 a.m. dish check was always clear, and I always saw movement near the windsock, never closer than 40 meters, never distinct enough to describe. I finished my task and returned per protocol. On the 6th night, Tuesday, I had my first fuel delivery. I was wiping down the King Air's cockpit when I heard the knock. 2 knocks. Pause. 1 knock. I set down the cloth, walked to the personnel door, and opened it. A man in an insulated jumpsuit stood outside next to a fuel truck. He had a tablet in one hand and a clipboard in the other. "Evening. You the new cleaner?" "Yeah." "Need your signature for the load. 5,000 liters diesel, 2,000 avgas." I signed the clipboard. He handed me a receipt, walked back to the truck, and began unspooling the hose toward the fuel depot. I closed the door and returned to the King Air. The delivery took 40 minutes. He knocked again, same pattern, and I opened the door to confirm he was finished. He handed me a second receipt, nodded, and drove off south into the dark. I logged it. Fuel delivery 2048, correct knock pattern, signed receipt. On Thursday, the second delivery came. Same driver, same pattern, but on Friday, not a delivery day, someone knocked at 11:36 p.m. 2 knocks, pause, 1 knock. I checked the schedule on the wall. No delivery listed. I walked to the door but did not open it. I said, "Station is closed, return at 7 a.m. Silence. Then from the other side of the door, "I need to drop the receipt." The voice was male, neutral, the same driver from Tuesday and Thursday. I checked my watch, 11:36 p.m., between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. I was supposed to respond to knocks during this window, but the knock pattern shouldn't happen except on delivery days. I said, "Slide it under the door." Silence, then footsteps fading south. I did not open the door. I checked the base of the door, no receipt. I logged it. Anomaly 2336, knock pattern incorrect for non-delivery day, did not open door. The rest of the night was quiet. On my 8th night, the Beaver's door was unlatched. I found it at 7:04 p.m. when I started my walkthrough. The latch was open, the door swung inward 3 inches. I closed it immediately. Checked that it was secure, then went to the desk and wrote, 1904 Beaver door unlatched, closed immediately, will not re-enter tonight. I skipped the Beaver and moved to the King Air. As I cleaned the cockpit, I kept glancing back at the Beaver. The door stayed closed, but I couldn't shake the thought. I latched it this morning. I checked it during my final walkthrough. Someone or something had opened it. I finished the King Air and the 2 Cessnas. I did not return to the Beaver. At 2:43 a.m. the blackout came. I sat at the desk with the radio on Channel 9. The static did its breathing pattern, but this time at 2:50 a.m. I heard a voice underneath the static. Faint. Distorted. Speaking a language I didn't recognize, guttural, rhythmic, like a chant or a list being recited. I kept my hands folded. I did not adjust the radio. At 2:51 a.m. the voice stopped. The static returned to normal. At 2:54 a.m. the generator came back on. I logged 0243 blackout normal. At 3:15 a.m. I climbed the ladder to check the dish. The frost was heavier tonight, coating the entire southern edge and part of the feed horn. I scraped carefully, making sure the alignment didn't shift. As I worked, I heard footsteps. Not near the windsock, closer. On the gravel between the ops office and the hangar. Slow, even footsteps. Boots on gravel, coming from the south. I kept scraping. I did not look. The footsteps stopped. I finished clearing the dish, climbed down at normal speed, and walked back to the hangar. I did not see anyone. I did not look toward where the footsteps had stopped. I logged 0315 dish clear, footsteps on gravel, returned per protocol. At 6 a.m., Cole and Ahmed arrived. I met Cole at the ops office door. Everything good? He asked. Yeah, beaver door was unlatched at the start of shift. I logged it. His expression didn't change. You close it? Yeah, immediately. Good. Don't go back in if that happens. Just like the protocol says. Why does it happen? He looked at me for a long moment. You get paid for compliance, not answers. Keep following the list. He walked toward the hangar. I wanted to ask more. I didn't. On my 10th night, someone knocked at 1:47 a.m. 3 knocks, evenly spaced. I was cleaning the first Cessna. I stopped, set down the cloth, and walked to the door. I checked my watch, 1:47 a.m. Between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m., I said, "Station is closed, return at 7 a.m. A pause, then a voice muffled through the door. It's Cole. I left my toolbox inside, need to grab it. I looked toward the desk. No toolbox. I said, there's no toolbox here. Another pause. Check the yellow cabinet. I walked to the cabinet and opened it. Cleaning supplies, rags, spray bottles, no toolbox. I returned to the door. Nothing here. Silence. Then footsteps fading south. I logged it. Anomaly 0147 knock, voice claiming to be Cole, no toolbox present, did not open door. At 6:29 a.m., Cole arrived. I met him, outside. Did you come by last night? I asked. He frowned. No, I was in Nuuk. Flew back this morning. Why? Someone knocked, said they were you. His jaw tightened. You opened the door? No. Good. He clapped me on the shoulder. Keep it that way. He walked past me into the hangar. On my 12th night, I found a note taped to the desk. It was in Jens's handwriting. If the knocking continues, do not let it make you doubt the list. The list is correct. The voice will always have a reason. The reason will always sound good. Trust the time, not the reason. Below that, in different ink, someone else had written, if you hear your childhood nickname, cover your ears and count to 60. Do not listen to what comes after the nickname. I didn't recognize the second handwriting. I folded the note and put it in my pocket. At 10:51 p.m. I heard the knock. 2 knocks, pause, 1 knock. Not a delivery day, not even close to the window. I walked to the door and said, station is closed. Return at 7 a.m. The voice came back immediately. It's Ahmed. Cole's hurt. I need the sat phone. I checked my watch, 10:51 p.m. Between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. I said, call from your own phone. Battery's dead, please, he's bleeding. I walked to the desk, picked up the VHF handheld and keyed the mic. Cole, you there? Static. I tried again. Cole, Ahmed says you're hurt. Confirm. Static. Then after 5 seconds, I'm fine. I'm at home. Don't open the door. I set down the radio and walked back to the door. I said nothing. The footsteps outside faded south. I logged it. Anomaly 2251 knock pattern on non-delivery day. Voice claiming to be Ahmed. Cole confirmed safe via radio. Did not open door. At 6:29 a.m. Ahmed arrived with Cole. Both of them looked fine. Ahmed saw me staring and raised an eyebrow. Something wrong? No. I said, I'm just tired. The pattern held for 3 more nights. Anomalies, compliance, logs. Then on my 16th night, the lights didn't come back on after the blackout. 2:54 a.m. came and went. The generator was running. I could hear it outside, but the hangar lights stayed dark. I sat at the desk with the radio on channel 9. The static had returned to normal. I waited. At 2:58 a.m., I heard the personnel door open. Not unlock, not creak, just the sound of the latch clicking and the door swinging inward. I did not move. I kept my hands on the desk, footsteps, boots on concrete, slow, even. Coming from the door toward the center of the hangar, they stopped near the King Air. I heard a metallic sound, a latch, then the air stair of the King Air being lowered. I kept my eyes on the desk. The footsteps climbed the air stair. I heard movement inside the cabin, something being dragged. Then the footsteps descended, crossed the hangar, and went out the personnel door. The door closed. At 3:01 a.m., the lights came back on. I stood, walked to the King Air, and looked inside. The cabin was clean, nothing disturbed. But one of the cargo tie-downs was unclipped, hanging loose against the wall. I clipped it back, checked the rest of the plane, and returned to the desk. I logged 0243 blackout extended to 03.01, lights failed to restore on schedule, anomalous entry and activity, King Air, tie-down unclipped, resecured. At 3:15 a.m. I climbed the ladder to check the dish. The movement near the windsock was closer tonight, maybe 30 meters. Still indistinct, but I could see it shift side to side like swaying. I finished the task, descended, and returned to the hangar. At 6 a.m. I completed my walkthrough. Everything was in order. Cole and Ahmed arrived on time. Cole read the log, his face unreadable. "Extended blackout," he said. "Yeah. That happens sometimes. You did it right. Stayed at the desk." Something came in. Went to the King Air. He nodded slowly. "And you didn't look?" "No." "Good." He closed the logbook and walked toward the hangar. I wanted to ask what would have happened if I'd looked. I didn't. On my 19th night, I found a second note on the desk. This one was typed, printed on faded paper, taped next to the logbook. Amendments to protocols updated OCT 2023-1. If the blackout extends beyond 3 a.m., remain at the desk until the lights restore. Do not investigate sounds during the extended period. 2. If you find any aircraft door or panel open that you did not open, close it immediately and do not re-enter that aircraft for the remainder of the shift. 3. If the dish cannot be cleared of frost within 5 minutes, abandon the task and return to the hangar. Do not remain on the ladder beyond 5 minutes. 4. If you hear someone say your childhood nickname, cover your ears and count to 60. Do not listen to what follows. 5. Do not use the sat phone between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. unless it is a life-threatening emergency. 6. If you see someone inside the hangar who is not yourself, leave through the personnel door and radio Cole immediately. Do not speak to them. I read it twice. Then I checked the date, October 2023, a year ago. I folded it and put it in my pocket with Jens's note. The next night I heard my nickname. It came at 12:34 a.m. from outside the hangar near the personnel door. "Maddie." My sister's voice. She was the only one who called me that. I set down the rag I was holding, walked to the desk, and pulled the noise-canceling headset from the drawer. I put it on and went back to work. Through the muffled silence of the headset, I saw the Beaver's cabin door swing open. I stopped. The door was fully open, the interior dark. I walked over, closed it, checked the latch, and went to the desk. I wrote saw 0034 name called, used headset per protocol. Beaver door found open, closed immediately, will not re-enter tonight. I kept the headset on for the rest of the hour. At 2:43 a.m. the blackout came. I sat at the desk with the radio. The static did its breathing pattern. At 2:49 a.m. I heard footsteps outside, not on gravel, on the tarmac near the main hangar door. Slow, even, circling. I counted them. 41 steps, then they stopped. The static on the radio shifted. The breathing pattern became faster. At 2:51 a.m. the footsteps resumed. 41 steps again, circling the opposite direction. At 2:54 a.m. the generator restored power. The lights came on. I logged 0243 blackout normal. Footsteps circling hangar, 41 steps, did not investigate. At 3:15 a.m. I climbed the ladder. The dish was clear. But the movement near the windsock was even closer now, maybe 20 meters. I could see the shape more clearly, upright, human proportions, but the movement was wrong. It swayed, but the sway didn't match the wind. I finished my task, descended at normal speed, and returned to the hangar. On my 22nd night, the sat phone rang at 3:37 a.m. I was at the desk drinking instant coffee, waiting for 6 a.m. The phone rang 5 times, stopped, then rang again. I looked at the amendments list. Do not use the sat phone between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. unless it is a life-threatening emergency. It didn't say anything about answering. I let it ring. It stopped after the 6th ring. I logged, anomaly 0337, sat phone rang. Did not answer per amended protocol. At 6:29 a.m. Cole arrived. He read the log, then looked at me. Sat phone rang? Yeah. You answer? No. He exhaled slowly. Good. Never answer it during the blackout window. Ever. What if it's an actual emergency? If it's real, they'll call back after 4 a.m. He closed the logbook and left. On my 25th night, Thursday, the fuel delivery came. 2 knocks, pause, 1 knock. I opened the door. The driver stood outside with his clipboard. Same man as always. Evening. 5,000 diesel, 2,000 avgas. I signed. He unspooled the hose and began the transfer. I went back to cleaning the King Air. At 9:18 p.m. I heard the hose disconnect. I walked to the door to get the receipt. The driver was gone. The truck was gone. The hose was coiled neatly next to the depot. I checked the gravel, no tire tracks leading away. I walked back inside and radioed Cole. Fuel delivery finished. Driver left without giving me the receipt. Static. Then, did you sign the first one? Yeah. Then you're good. Sometimes they leave early, don't worry about it. I logged. Fuel delivery 2032, driver departed without final receipt. Radioed Cole. Confirmed normal. But I checked the depot later at 11 p.m. The tanks were full. On my 28th night, I found a third note. This one was handwritten in block letters taped inside the yellow cabinet. If the windsock falls, do not go outside until Cole arrives. I checked the date at the bottom, February 2024. 8 months ago, I folded it, added it to the others, and finished my shift. At 3:15 a.m., I climbed the ladder. The dish was clear, the windsock was still standing. But the movement near it was now 10 meters away. I could see details, arms, legs, a head, but the proportions were slightly wrong. The arms too long. The head tilted at an angle that didn't match the body. I finished my task and descended at normal speed. As I walked back to the hangar, I heard it speak. Not words, just a low hum, rhythmic and steady, coming from the direction of the windsock. I kept walking. I did not look back. On my 30th night, the King Air's air stair was down. I found it at 7:06 p.m. I hadn't touched it yet. I raised the air stair, checked the latch, and went to the desk. I wrote, 1906 King Air stair found down, raised immediately, will not re-enter tonight. At 10:41 p.m. I heard knocking. 3 knocks, evenly spaced. I checked my watch, 10:41 p.m. Between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. I said, station is closed, return at 7 a.m. A pause, then, Matty, it's Dad, I need help. My father, dead 6 years. I walked to the desk, put on the noise-canceling headset, and returned to the first Cessna. The knocking continued for 3 minutes. I couldn't hear it through the headset, but I could see the door vibrate. Then it stopped. At 2:43 a.m., the blackout came. I sat at the desk with the radio. The static did its breathing pattern. At 2:48 a.m., I heard the personnel door open. Footsteps. Boots on concrete, crossing toward the Beaver. I kept my eyes on the desk. The footsteps climbed onto the Beaver's floats. I heard the cabin door open. Movement inside. Then the door closed. The footsteps descended, crossed the hangar, and exited through the personnel door. The door closed. At 2:54 a.m., the generator restored power. I stood, walked to the Beaver, and checked the door. It was closed and latched. I did not open it. I returned to the desk. I logged 0243 blackout normal. Anomalous entry, activity at Beaver, door found latched, did not open. At 6 a.m. I completed my walkthrough. The Beaver door was still latched. I left it alone. Cole and Ahmed arrived on time. Cole read the log. "You didn't open the Beaver," he said. "No." "Good." He walked away. On my 33rd night, the movement near the windsock was 5 meters away. I could see it clearly now. It looked like a man in dark coveralls, but the head was tilted 45 degrees to the left and the arms hung too low past the knees. I finished clearing the dish, descended, and walked back to the hangar. Behind me, I heard footsteps, matching my pace, 5 meters back. I did not look. I did not speed up. I reached the hangar, opened the personnel door, stepped inside, and closed it. The footsteps stopped outside. I logged 0315 dish clear, movement 5 meters, followed to hangar, did not engage. At 3:21 a.m. I heard scratching on the personnel door. Not knocking, scratching, nails or metal on steel. It lasted 4 minutes, then stopped. On my 36th night, Tuesday, the fuel delivery came. 2 knocks, pause, 1 knock. I opened the door. The driver stood outside, but his face was wrong. Not disfigured, just wrong. The features were in the right places, but the proportions didn't match. The eyes too far apart, the mouth too narrow. "Evening," he said. 5,000 diesel, 2,000 avgas. I hesitated. He held retry a continue out the clipboard. "Need your signature." I checked the clipboard. It looked correct. Date, quantities, receipt number. I signed. He walked to the truck and began the transfer. I went back inside, radioed Cole, and said, "Fuel delivery in progress. Driver looks off. Static." Then, "Off how?" "Face. Proportions." A long pause. "Did you sign already?" "Yeah." "Then finish the shift. Don't go outside until he's gone." "Understood." I stayed inside. At 9:23 p.m. I heard the hose disconnect. I waited 5 minutes, then checked through the window. The truck was gone. The hose was coiled. The depot was full. I logged. Fuel delivery 2047. Driver appearance anomalous. Radioed Cole. Stayed inside per instruction. On my 39th night, the Beaver's cabin door was open, not just unlatched. Fully open, swung wide. I closed it immediately, checked the latch, and went to the desk. I wrote, 1903 Beaver door found open, closed immediately, will not re-enter tonight. At midnight, I heard my sister's voice again. "Matty, I'm hurt. Please help me." I put on the headset. At 1:17 a.m., the voice changed. "Matthew," my full name, my mother's voice. I kept the headset on. At 2:43 a.m., the blackout came. I sat at the desk with the radio. At 2:46 a.m., the personnel door opened. Footsteps, more than one set, 3, maybe 4. They crossed the hangar toward the planes. I heard latches, doors, movement in the cabins. At 2:53 a.m., the footsteps returned to the door and exited. At 2:54 a.m., the generator restored power. I stood and checked all 4 aircraft. Every cabin door was closed and latched, but inside the first Cessna, one of the seats had been moved. It was now facing backward. I turned it forward, checked the rest, and returned to the desk. I logged 0243 blackout normal, multiple entries, activity in aircraft, 1 seat repositioned, corrected. At 3:15 a.m. I climbed the ladder. The dish was clear. The movement was now 3 meters away. I could see it perfectly. It was shaped like a man, but it wasn't. The joints bent in wrong directions. The head rotated slowly, independent of the body. I finished clearing the dish and descended. The thing was now standing between me and the hangar. I walked toward it at normal speed. At 2 meters, it stepped aside. I walked past it, opened the personnel door, and went inside. Behind me, I heard it speak. "Tomorrow." I closed the door. On my 40th night, I found a 4th note. It was on the desk, written in Jens's handwriting. If they say tomorrow, prepare for the long night. Use the emergency protocols. Do not deviate. If you survive, you will understand why the pay is what it is. Below that, someone else had written in pencil, count everything. Time, steps, doors. Precision is the only armor. I read the emergency protocols in the binder. Emergency protocols, long night. 1. If the generator fails to restore power by 3 a.m., this is a long night. Remain at the desk until 5 a.m. Do not leave for any reason. 2. Every 15 minutes during a long night, key the radio on channel 9 and say, station holding. Do not say anything else. Do not respond to replies. 3. If you hear your full legal name spoken 3 times, cover your ears and recite the aircraft tail numbers in sequence until the voice stops. 4. Do not open any aircraft doors during a long night, even if you hear someone inside calling for help. 5. At 5 a.m., if the lights have not restored, use the flashlight in the desk's top drawer to complete a perimeter check of the hangar exterior. Walk clockwise. Count your steps. Return through the personnel door when you reach your starting point. I read it 4 times. Then I checked the flashlight. It worked. At 7 p.m., I started my walkthrough. The beaver door was closed. I cleaned it without incident. At 2:43 a.m., the blackout came. I sat at the desk with the radio. At 2:54 a.m., the generator did not restore power. I waited. At 2:58 a.m., still no power. At 3 a.m., I keyed the radio and said, station holding. Static. At 3:15 a.m., I keyed again. Station holding. A voice came back, distorted and layered. We're coming in. I did not respond. At 3:30 a.m., I heard the personnel door open. Footsteps, many of them. They spread across the hangar, moving between the planes. I kept my eyes on the desk. At 3:45 a.m., I keyed the radio. Station holding. Someone whispered behind me. Matthew James Harper. My full name. Once, I waited. Matthew James Harper. Twice, Matthew James Harper. 3 times. I covered my ears and recited the tail numbers. November 728, Delta Foxtrot. November 915, Charlie Echo. November 433, Alpha Bravo. November 68, November Kilo. I repeated them 12 times. The whisper stopped. At 4 a.m., I keyed the radio. Station holding. At 4:15 a.m., I keyed again. Station holding. At 4:30 a.m., someone knocked on the personnel door. I did not respond. At 4:45 a.m., I keyed the radio. Station holding. At 5 a.m., the lights came on. The hangar was empty. All 4 planes were undisturbed. The personnel door was closed. I pulled the flashlight from the desk and went outside. The air was freezing. The sky was still dark. I started at the southeast corner of the hangar and walked clockwise, counting steps. 1, 2, 3. At 47 steps, I reached the northeast corner. At 92 steps, the northwest corner. At 136 steps, the southwest corner. At 181 steps, I was back at the personnel door. I went inside, returned the flashlight to the drawer and logged 0243 long night. Generator failed to restore until 05 and drew. Used emergency protocols. Multiple entries, no direct engagement. Perimeter check complete, 181 steps. At 6 a.m., I completed my final walkthrough. Everything was in order. Cole and Ahmed arrived on time. Cole read the log. His face was grim. You did it right, he said. What were they? He looked at me for a long moment. If I told you, you'd leave, and we need someone who can follow the list. He closed the logbook and walked away. I stayed. I worked another week. The anomalies continued, but nothing matched the long night. On my 47th night, Cole handed me an envelope. You've been here 6 weeks. That's longer than the last 3 people. If you want to leave, no one will blame you. I opened the envelope. Inside, a paycheck and a handwritten note. If you stay another month, there's a bonus. If you train the next person, there's another bonus. If you make it to 4 months, you can leave with enough to clear any debt. I looked at Cole. What happened to the people who didn't make it? They broke the rules, he said, or they couldn't handle the compliance. What happens if you break the rules? He didn't answer. I stayed another month. On my 73rd night, a new person arrived, a woman in her 30s, nervous, carrying a single backpack. Her name was Lynn. Cole introduced us. She's training with you for 3 nights. Show her the list, make sure she understands. I walked her through the hangar, showed her the planes, the desk, the logbook, the protocols. She read the list carefully. These are real? She asked. Yeah. And if I don't follow them? Don't find out. We worked the first night together. I led, she followed. Everything was quiet. On the second night at 11:41 p.m., someone knocked. 3 knocks, evenly spaced. I checked my watch, 11:41 p.m. Between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m., I said, "Station is closed, return at 7 a.m." Lynn whispered, Who is it? Doesn't matter, don't open the door. The knocking stopped. At 2:43 a.m., the blackout came. We sat at the desk together. I handed her the radio and told her to keep it on channel 9. The static did its breathing pattern. Lynn's hands shook. What is that? Don't know. Don't need to know, just follow the list. At 2:54 a.m., the generator restored power. Lynn exhaled slowly. Is it always like this? Mostly, sometimes worse. On the third night at 3:15 a.m., I took her to check the dish. The movement near the windsock was 10 meters away again. She saw it and froze on the ladder. What is that? Don't look at it. Finish the task. She cleared the frost, descended, and we walked back to the hangar. Behind us, the footsteps followed. She started to turn. I grabbed her arm. Don't look. Keep walking. We reached the hangar and went inside. Lynn was pale. What the hell is out there? I don't know, but if you follow the list, it doesn't matter. On my 76th night, Lynn worked her first solo shift. I stayed in the ops office, monitoring the radio. At 2:43 a.m., I heard her key the mic. Blackout started. I'm at the desk. Good, keep the radio on channel 9. At 2:54 a.m., lights are back, logging it now. At 3:15 a.m., heading to check the dish. At 3:21 a.m., dish clear. Movement was close tonight, I didn't look. Good work. At 6 a.m., shift complete, everything's logged. Cole arrived at 6:30 a.m. He read her logbook, nodded, and told her she'd passed training. She looked at me. How long are you staying? Another few weeks, then it's yours. She nodded slowly. I'll follow the list. That's all you need to do. On my 89th night, my last night, I sat at the desk and wrote a note for whoever came next. You've read the list, you've seen the logs, you know what to do. The anomalies will test you. They'll use voices, faces, reasons. Ignore all of it. The list is correct. Time and protocol are your only tools. Count everything. Time, steps, distances. Precision is survival. If you follow the list, you'll make it. If you don't, no one can help you. Trust the list. Not the voices, not the knocking, not the movement. The list. I taped it to the desk next to Jens's note. At 6 a.m., I completed my final walkthrough. Everything was in order. Cole and Ahmed arrived. Cole read the logbook, then shook my hand. 89 nights. That's a record for this decade. Lynn's ready, I said. I know, you trained her right. He handed me an envelope. Inside, a check and a handwritten note. You've earned this. If you ever want to come back, we'll have a spot for you, but I hope you don't need to. I picked up my duffel bags and walked to the Twin Otter waiting on the tarmac. As the plane lifted off, I looked down at the station, the hangar, the ops office, the windsock, the restricted shed. Near the windsock, I saw movement. I looked away. The plane banked south and the Yez station disappeared behind the ridgeline. I never went back, but sometimes late at night I still count my steps.